Hi, Sherry. It's George.
Hello and welcome. That, I guess, a piece of music, because I found it very inspiring, was from Madeline Nichols, who is a practitioner and who often sends me things to share with people. I found the music so stimulating in looking at how all the numbers go together that I wanted to share it. And before somebody jumps on me and says, you know, this is not good that you're talking about God, I would like to explain my idea of what God is. God to me is all things that have sentientness, that have aliveness and the thinking ability, and a thinking process ability. I think trees are sentient, and vegetables, and animals, and anybody who is eating vegetables because they think they're not alive, they need to think again, because I talk to vegetables and trees a lot. And I think rocks are very sentient beings, and stones, and turtles, and just some of us are quicker thinking, or quicker reacting, I should say. We don't know how quickly a rock will think about something. We just know that they don't react very quickly. So we're going to talk a little bit about frequency this evening, the frequency of all things, and how we have been able to turn frequencies into information. Your brain is the central processing unit of your body, and it responds to frequency no matter what we do with that frequency, whether we input it into trillions of cycles per second as sight, or in hundreds of cycles per second as auditory input, or as kinetic energy, as our bundle of His responds to energy, and that keeps it flowing. So the basis of what we do in these classes that we prepare for the public is to talk about energy and how we can use energy as a tool. So the energy we're going to talk about this evening is radiation exposure and how we can use information and the correlates of nutrients to be able to help you. There's not much that many of us could do with all of the radiation that's coming at us and some of the radiation that they're trying to fool us with and some of the articles. California slammed. And all of that is coming over the jet stream and what's going on with it. Then the other thing, some of the absolutely unbelievable pictures that are coming out of Fukushima and the desolation and what they're doing with people telling them they can't go back to their homes, but everything is safe there. There's absolutely no problem, but everything is absolutely safe. I don't particularly like this music. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I think I'll turn it down completely. This is from some of the flooding. As you look at this, I'm going to go ahead and put some of these links into the chat. And for those of you who are new with us, the chat usually is on the right-hand side, right below the participants. So these are just some of the degradation that has happened there. And there's 14,000 deaths attributed to this after the fact, and most of those were unborn children. A lot of spontaneous abortion. But there's a lot going on in the world with this, and they're telling us, don't worry about it. It's nothing. Well, from what we see here in the clinic, that's not the case. This is causing radical factors to be released in the body, just like it would from a microwave. So this radiation that we're being exposed to is causing a problem. So we want to talk tonight about what is happening with that and what we can do about it. So certainly thank you for joining me. That's my picture up there in the upper left-hand corner. That was a couple of years ago, I think 3 or 4 years. So if you see me and you got a little gray hair now, you won't be surprised. This is the Institute of Bioacoustic Biology and Sound Health. This is where we do our work. We used to say this was the largest center in southern Ohio, and we found out it was the largest center in Ohio, and now we're finding out it's one of the largest centers dedicated to the use of, or the research about frequency and its effect on living systems. We have about 9,000 square feet here, and a little studio and classrooms, and so if you get near, come visit. What we do here at the Research Center, in common terms, is breaking the sound barrier of disease. We try to support the body's own self-healing potential. We stick a microphone in front of your face, take a sample of your voice, see what is in that voice that doesn't belong, like sour notes in a song, and then we give you back those frequencies. We have a way to tap in to the magnetic coherence of your brain, and that straightens up the frequencies, sort of like being responsive to the music that we played right beforehand. We think that bioacoustically speaking, the body has the ability to self-diagnose and to reorganize according to that information. That's from an intrinsic perspective, and we have just found a way to tap in to that intrinsic perspective and entrain the body to do what it ought to do. Like a person can't move their finger, we can give them a frequency. The ears and the skin pick it up, and now they can move their finger. We do a lot with helping people who have had strokes regain their ability to speak and to use their muscles. We had 2 women in this weekend. It was absolutely wonderful. One had deteriorated hearing, and the 3 things that we have found that go with deteriorated hearing: potassium, actin, and myosin. And she could not process actin, and so we gave it to her with frequency, and her body began to respond. And I find that absolutely amazing. So that opportunity is what we want to share with people, and we are sharing the information about radiation, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of something here, because we feel like that the government is not giving us the right information. And so we have chosen several classes and topics that we want to use to share with people. And this is one of those things. I moved the wrong things over. So we did nutrition last month. We did post-traumatic stress disorder on April 7th. And I think that one's being repeated. Maybe it was repeated last weekend. This weekend, we are doing radiation exposure, and that will be repeated as a rerun all next weekend from Friday at 5 to Monday noon. May 5th, we'll be doing Parkinson's. May 12th, allergy. June 2nd, countervailing the seasonal, and that's seasonal flus. And then there's another one, pre-vaccination risk factors, that we will be doing. So those are the main things that we think are wrong in our health, not the right nutrition, too much stress, radiation from all over the place, Parkinson's from GMO foods, allergies from just chemtrails and bad food and bad sex, bad water, whatever, countervailing the season, that's all the vaccinations, and of course the pre-vax is about vaccination damage. So we want to share these with the public. All issues here are presented and expressed in terms of frequency equivalent, and that is a numeric representation of a person, place, thing, emotion, gene, anything going on in your environment, external, internal, whether it's toxins from the gasoline that you fill up or a food that you're eating, everything we talk about in terms of a frequency equivalent. We can't tell you your zinc is low. We have to say your frequency equivalent of zinc is low. We want to share this with the people because we understand that whoever controls health controls the quality of life. Whoever controls health controls the quality of life. And I've heard there's 3 places now, that they, meaning the government and Obamacare, has now decreed and sent this out to rehabilitation homes and, I don't know what you call them, the old age homes. There must be a prettier name for that. But they have sent out an edict that says anybody over 60 who is a diabetic should have their insulin rationed. Now, that's all well and good on a piece of paper and your statistic. Actually, I called somebody who I knew ran a bunch of these rehab centers, and I said, this is what's going on. She said, yeah, that's what should happen. And I'm like, oh, my God. These people, she says, aren't contributing. They're just taking resources that somebody else can have. And she said, there's a shortage of medication. And so those people who aren't productive should be the ones to go. Well, one, I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that there is any shortage of medication. Now, for those of you who know that I do a radio show, I do it on Sundays. It's called Sound Health Options on Blog Talk. You can get an invitation on our site, soundhealthoptions.com. And then, son, would you type that into the chat for us? Soundhealthoptions.com, Blog Talk Radio, and where people can get their invitation. We're going to have a man on with us, Clint Richardson, and he's going to show us how the medical community is actually run by the government. It's not a separate entity as a separate company. It is totally run by the government. So you'll see that it is the government that are creating these shortages. It's the government who's controlling fluoride and chlorine in your water. It's the government who's controlling chemtrails. It's the government who's trying to control your life. And here I am in this, the biggest little teeny research center. I own this intellectual property. I want to share it with people because I don't believe the government should have a say in who gets insulin. I think the people who need insulin should get insulin. And this poppycock about there's not enough room on the planet, I've already solved that for them. There were 2 reasons they weren't going into space. That they couldn't control the loss of bone material and they couldn't control muscle atrophy. Our center has I don't know the word, has provided them a way to do that. And they're not interested. So if they're not interested, it's up to us. It's up to us who want to make a difference and we who are willing to put our time into this. Now, I had somebody come to our center recently, and the father had a chronic disease, and then the daughter came with him. And I showed them how to do what they needed to do. And they said, oh, that's too much trouble. We don't want to do that. We don't want to take that much time. And so they went to somebody who charged them $27,000 for a guaranteed cure. And they wrote me and told me, and we had already cleaned up this other person's messes a lot of the time, where these people just gave out their $27,000 because they didn't want to take a course and help their father because it was too much trouble. Now, we have spent years trying to make this push button and easy. I see some of you here are going to be taking the course starting Monday, and you'll get to see a very push button and very easy way to do this. It used to take us a day, and then 5 hours, and 4, and 3, and 2. Now it's push buttons to get to see what frequencies you actually need to use. The people that are here today will receive information about bioacoustic biology and what we're doing currently with radiation, software, Audacity that you'll download from the internet, Abacus software that you'll download from us, and this is a new system we've set up, so hold on a second, radiation exposure software, and then how to bundle all that, and a textbook. Whoops, there's a textbook, but this is already set up for you, and I thought I had it set up so you could see it immediately what was going on. Oh, it's coming up next. So this is the textbook, step by step, exactly what you're going to be doing with it. So all of this that you'll be seeing, and the software is dealing with radiation, the information, the articles, it's all waiting for you. It's at soundhealthoptions.com/radiation software. Don't capitalize anything. .html. So here's the link coming up. There it is. Maybe I should just put it in. See if I can do that. I'll put it in. Well, didn't take there. Maybe it did. There. So there's the link, so you don't have to write to us and say, I want this. People who handle our accounts to send out email didn't want us sending it out. People didn't want to have that call and ask for it. So we set it up for you on our website so that you can just go get it. And those of you who don't want it, ignore this. I don't know why it wouldn't, but you'll need a microphone if you're new here. We recommend probably right now the Dynex. It's not easy to get hold of, but it is very sturdy. It is pliable, rubbery kind of plastic. It has its own sound card in it, which is the same as the USB sound card and the Samsung sound card. We used to use the Logitech, and we tell people for ages that that is fragile. You drop it, and it snaps off right at the bottom of the neck there. And the Samsung, although very hardy, is also very heavy, and it's hard for children to use it or somebody who has a problem with being able to hold something heavy, stable. We encourage you to go to soundhealthoptions.com. We try to put up new articles almost every week. The two new things I've done this week are about Hillary Clinton and John McCain. And both of them are talking about Iran and how we need to put soldiers on the ground. And that's what we're going to do. No, we're not. Yes, we are. So I evaluated both of their voices, and their voices were almost identical. So there's Hillary Clinton, the Democrat, and McCain, the Republican. You can't tell their voice apart. This is just one team, people. There aren't Democrats and the Republicans. They're all coming from the same place. So check it out under profiles under soundhealthoptions.com. We also have videos for you under soundhealthoptions.com, Secret Stash. And they have they talked about on Friday putting a couple of new things up there. A pathogen video showing how we can use frequencies to get rid of pathogens. And I can't remember the other thing that they were going to put up there. They're eventually going to put up some excerpts from Jill's book, Ultimate Healing, that came out last June. And so many people have called and said they really enjoyed her book about the background of this and how all of this came to be. I love the third part because she has taken what we do and integrated it with ancient healing. And there's so much out there now proving that people can be healed with music and sound. And I think it's something that was part of us. We just forgot how to do it. Another book that has a lot of information about the Tree of Life and the Holy Grail by Sylvia Frank. And it has the Templar information. And most of you remember that's some of the architecture that we use in creating formulas for people. And we've been hard at work at the center here for, I published my first paper in 84. I wrote it in 82 and it was published in 84. That's 30 years, people. Wow. Well, here's some of the recent things that we've been able to do. Revealed that Parkinson's is a catch-all diagnosis, and we're doing a special class next week just for people who want to know more about Parkinson's. Discovered the 8 root causes of post-traumatic stress disorder. Did a project with the Army to show what proteins are common with traumatic brain injury. That's going to be published or presented at Stanford this year. Profiled Jerry Sandusky about the Penn State sex scandal. Is he guilty? Go read the profile. Oh, that's not fair. Yes, he's guilty, but for a very odd reason. Discovered an antidote of how drug companies are attempting to make vaccinations more potent. They're putting in there something called hemagglutinin, which makes it adhere more to your cells of the vaccine. Well, I just created an antidote for the vaccine, and then I found out it's already on the market in grapefruit seed extract. So if you're all been getting colds and flu and garbage, that would be a good thing to take every day because it doesn't allow the the potential pathogens, the invading pathogens, the viruses, yeast, great for candida. It doesn't allow it to adhere to the cell, just flushes it out. We've been able to show that Gardasil is bioacoustically related to an attempt at mass infertility, and we have an article about that. You could request it. I don't think it's on your list, but let me see. Gardasil article attempt at infertility. I'm writing it down so I can get it to Ashley. Maybe she can get it up on the site for you. We do keynotes. Every day there is a different frequency coming to the earth, and we figured those out and how people are being bombarded with that and how allergies happen because of it and how people get depressed and they really don't have any reason to because of all the frequencies that are bombarding the earth. Just like the frequencies from the moon, information, gravity, which is another form of frequency, causes the tides, they can also pull up the water in us and cause a change. We've shown the relationship, written an article about this, of GMO foods and the current health crisis. That was published in the Townsend Letters, and we just got an article yesterday where somebody had piggybacked on my article and actually proved that it's the Roundup that they put in the seeds that's causing the problem. I really think they're going to find it's the taurine and the glutathione, but if they want to say Roundup for right now, I'll take it, because I think it's wonderful that they're finally getting to this crisis that these foods are making us sick. We've revealed the information about who was the real target at the Gabby Giffords attack. That was the congressman that was shot in the head last year, maybe 2 years. We can show that wheat sensitivities have a lot to do with the process of absorbing calcium. And calcium is one of the main things that helps the body repair itself. Shown how cancer is related to calcium. Cancer food and calcium have a very similar frequency. So when you get hurt and the body calls out, the hurt part calls out for calcium, if calcium is not available, then cancer food, by its frequency relationship, goes to the site. That's very important. And the one we're doing right now, the mathematical relationship between leptin and weight loss. And this is weight loss through the adrenals. Another thing, pancreas and thyroid and hippocampus and that's the HCG stuff. So we're going to look at adrenals as a form of weight control. This is a video that's available to you. I hope most of you have watched it. It's a little over 3 minutes long. And it's about a little girl who came to us at the end of school. She's there in blue. And failure to drive was the diagnosis. It's on our site under Information Central. For those of you who have taken the class, it is in your class kit. Her growth hormones had not kicked in. And they were in there, and they were very high, but they just weren't useful. So we were able to help kick those in. And by the time she was beginning high school, and she's there in white, those pictures are 3 months apart. It looks like a totally different girl. But she has finished college now, and she is teaching children who have learning disabilities. So we do this from the perspective of case studies, because that's what we were told when we went to the National Institute of Health, that we really needed to look at this from that perspective, because it didn't lend itself to any other kind of analysis. Double-blind studies weren't going to do it. We took them several case studies and showed them what we could do. They asked us to apply for a grant, and they gave us some very positive feedback. This is just one piece of it. Voice analysis has the potential for non-invasive and inexpensive detection of physiological state. This would certainly have dramatic impact across the healthcare system if it could be specific, robust, and predictive. But it is very specific. It is not robust at this point because we don't have the money to make it robust, although we're working on it. And several people are trying to help us gain grants and angel funding to make it robust. We have this idea of a soft plastic or soft chair that is made of good conductive material, and there's troughs in this almost a beanbaggy kind of chair thing. It has troughs for your arms and legs and back and head, and it will detect and provide you back your frequencies. And we think in that way it will be very robust. The other thing is trying to create something that's enclosing of soldiers that would feed back information about their state of health and keep them in stasis and give them what they need, and maybe for everybody eventually. Or I think we'd all get very lazy doing that. We're not trying to do this instead of any medical thing out there. I'm supposed to say I'm not doing this instead of Obamacare, but I just don't see how I could make that statement with a straight face, because just the stuff about rationing and about what's happening with Obamacare. We've been able to clean up water with a frequency. I think that's going to be incredibly important. We have shown that we can provide insulin to people through frequency. That's incredible. We jumped on that one really quickly when we found out they were rationing. We had some clues before, but now we have proof that this can actually happen. So we want to create this new model and create groups of people in every city that can create a bioacoustic center for people who are being neglected or abused. It will be a new model that we hope people can embrace. Our problem is we don't have enough people to teach or to do this. So we do it in a couple of different ways. We have provided the nanovoice.org for people for free with a 2-hour class and graphs there. This is the baby of the big one in voice that we have just decided we are going to provide to practitioners, because I don't think they know the value of it. So we have created another course called the Bioacoustic Technician, and in that one we're going to be providing people with the mother of this particular demo program. Well, this little one gives you 3 or 4 paragraphs. The big one will give you 3 or 4, 5, 6 pages. So we're going to be starting that probably in June, of providing that for people and showing how to use it and doing some demos on YouTube. It gives you information not by frequency but by notes, where it's time domain, and this is kind of frequency domain. So we're going to be talking about both of those today. Frequency domain causes you to be very, very specific, where the nano voice just gives you notes together. And you can get very, very specific, like this is a pathogen, by looking at the architecture, these little teeny humps. What we did was take this and take a piece out of it, enlarge it, so that we could see the architecture. And this is the architecture of a pathogen. Now, think about what happened in the Tokyo train where there was ricin, and there's absolutely no antidote, and all these people died. Well, if we had known it was ricin, and we've not set this up, I'm just doing this by extrapolation. If we set this up and tested it and knew it, and instantly we can give back the frequency antidote. Now, we've done this with other toxins. We've done it with herpes. We've done it with swine flu. I can't think of the others. Colds, adenoviruses, and being able to give back an antidote frequency. And this is an immediate response. An immediate response. We don't have to go to the lab and wait for everybody to die before we can give them an antidote. Think about this in terms of chemtrails. If we knew what was in the chemtrails every time, and they're different probably every time, then we could create the antidote and put it out on speakers for the whole community. So we're going to start with the nano voice, and this is based on just time domain, and it was originally done as a personality profiler. I'll show you a little bit about how it could be done for both. So we're looking at 12 notes here, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and so forth. Okay, I'm going to read this. Thank you, Moon, for taking care of that. I should just ask somebody to volunteer to take care of the chat, because I don't get to pay much attention to it. Very nice, Anita. Okay. Good stuff you guys are putting up there. Okay, back to Nano. This one is the one that's free, nanovoice.org. So it takes your sounds of your voice and divides it up into notes. Like 440 is the note of A and 130 is the note of C. Those are cycles per second. And this white line is no man's land, so we take out 3% on both sides of the notes, the end of one, the beginning of the other, so nothing is ever mistaken for another note. And we begin to look at people's voices and what's happening with it. And we can see things like intention. This is one of the clearest cases of intention or misdirected intention. Christian Bale, actor, Batman, known for his volatility on the set, and there was a photographer there and got in front of some light or something, and he just went off on him and called him every kind of effing name you can think of. And I looked at his voice because the words didn't match the frequencies I was hearing. And you would think if this happened spontaneously, he would have had a spontaneous vocal print. He didn't. Red is the spontaneous vocal print. Actually, he had a green. The majority of this print is green. And it says he did this for a purpose. Now, green is for a purpose, future purpose, like a farmer or a con artist or somebody trying to misdirect you that something is done for this purpose but is actually over here. So this tirade that Christian Bale did was just a big fat lie. So we can look at lies and intention. Here is the Jerry Sandusky one, and you can see when he was talking, and this was an interview, it was all very spontaneous. The guy who did this interview did not ask the right questions. And I can't remember the interviewer's name. Sports interviewer. I think his name starts with C. Costa, maybe? But he did not ask the right question. The question he asked was, did you have sexual relations with these boys? And he says, no. Well, he didn't consider what he was doing sexual. He considered it playing with these boys. Sex to him must mean something totally different. And when you have somebody with a big missing part, as you see in green here, it's unrelated. It's disassociative. It's not connected. So you've got the bottom part here starting with 3, 5, 19, 1, 8, 1. That's his foundation. Foundation looks pretty good. He wants everything to be useful. Note of G and G sharp is high. But you look at the note of D, very high, and that's in a fantasy range. And D is about doing something for somebody else and the good of somebody else. It's fantasy to him. So in this interview, I could have slipped them a question to get them to see where he was moving with this. And you can see with just the columns of red and yellow here, you can't see the actual fantasy numbers. This only picks up 4 octaves because most people don't talk in 5 octaves, but the numeric section of it does. So you can see that this guy has totally separated. He's got like 2 lives going on. Separation from reality. So you can see when someone's lying to you, and that would be a handy thing to have with a new date. We're trying to get this on iPad. We just haven't raised enough money yet. But you're talking to somebody on the phone. You can see whether they're lying to you or what their motivation are. You know, privacy really is an illusion. Everyone hears on another level of what's really going on in our lives and what we're talking about. But they're just too polite to talk to us about it. Or to confront us with it, maybe. So we can look at that nano voice in terms of what does the note C represent. And this is a note correlate chart. And I'll tell you how to get those later. And then we look at the amount or how tall that column is. About halfway up is average. If it's way high, they got too much of that trait. And on nanovoice.org, you can download the charts and see what's really going on. Not only does the size of the column matter, but the color. And the color is the octave in which that kind of emotion is expressed. So red, we already talked about, was reactive. Yellow is the thinker. And you can imagine the thinker statue in big yellow colors, so you can remember it that way. Green is for the farmer, the doer, the accomplisher, the grow thing, green. You can remember farmer there. And the blue is for like the minister and the emotional kind of person. So if we look at the note of A, and A is 440 cycles per second, you can be exactly in the middle of an A, but you can be a little off key. You can be a little flat, a little sharp. So we need to look at that balance of the notes. And we need to look at the actual cycles per second of each note. So as you look at these frequencies, or as you speak them, the computer will automatically line them up and look at each of the notes and look in between the notes and look at the average of the notes and begin to build a chart for you so that you can see what balances and what doesn't. Now from F sharp to B, that's right brained, and from C to F, that's left brained. So we can see that this person has much more going on in the right brain, because we've got this high A sharp. Also, E and A sharp must match, and they don't here. That's the very most unbalanced piece there is here. This means that the person's words, the note is E, if you've looked at these charts, and A sharp, the soul behind the intent, doesn't match here. So whoever this is, they're fibbing. Oh, it's Janet Napolitano when she was talking about the flu epidemic is going to kill us all. Well, we have figured out a chart that the people can use and use the little nano voice and use this chart. And you just saw that that person has a very tall A sharp. Well, look at the second one down, cobalt, that's A sharp. And the last one, plutonium, is A sharp. So it's a possibility that that person could have been exposed to cobalt or plutonium, if that's what we're looking for. But one could be right in the middle of A sharp, and one could be at the beginning of A sharp. We never know. So we begin to look at someone's voice and try to figure out what's going on. So let's go look at the voice we just looked at. And I just picked one. So A sharp is very tall. So if we were looking at this in terms of radiation exposure, let's pick the cobalt. The antidotes, if it's cobalt, the antidote is NADH. Now, nicotinic adenosine diphosphate dehydrogenase. Your liver makes that. So this is going to affect your liver. You can buy NADH right at the health food store. Or calcium salt. You can buy those right at the health food store. And if it's attacked your neck muscles, That may be the problem. Or low back pain because it comes in and attacks the kidneys. Now, what it will compete with, that's the antidote. What it will compete with is your B12. So you'll have problems looking, processing foods, having energy. Down here with plutonium, it looks like you'd have trouble breathing. There are some B12 cofactors, norepinephrine, which might be allergy related. So using this chart and the free nano, people could get an idea of what's going on. If they have the note of F very high and you're looking at their exposure, it could be the strontium-90. The antidote to that, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, you can get that right from your health food store. And what it will compete with is inositol. And inositol is needed to work with choline. So where the cobalt person might have a neck problem or kidney issues, the strontium person might have trouble with indigestion. Their eyeballs might be swollen or more tired. The psoas muscle, which is a muscle that stretches from the middle of the back sideways, diagonally kind of over to the crest of the hip bone. So just with a microphone that's $15, an invoice program that's absolutely free, this chart, which is waiting on you at that address, you can begin to test people and see what's really going on. I probably should jump over here and look at what's being. Bob Costas, yes, thank you, Diane B. So as we look at this, if you can afford a $15 microphone, skip a pizza this week. Get that microphone, and we're trying to provide you the tools. Go look at the complete class. It's a 2-hour class that will teach you how to use this to look at different kinds of allergies, certainly your exposure to radioactive isotopes. Some people say there are safe levels of radiation, and some people say there are absolutely no safe level of radiation. You're going to have to decide that for yourself, but here's one and a reference that tells you there's no safe levels. I'll send this out to everyone. George, I think I put out some addresses that only went to you. If it's just to you privately, would you share it with other people? I don't believe that there are safe levels of radiation. I believe our body has to be fit enough to take care of the levels of radiation that comes in, whether it's radiation from electricity or a smart meter or your microwave or an x-ray at the hospital or your telephone or whatever is going on. We need to be healthy enough to handle that. And you've got a chart now where you can see some of the things that will help handle that. These are some of the things that they say are safe. Granite naturally contains uranium. Now, how much of it? Certainly not like you'd get from blowing up a plant. Marble gives off radiation gas. They're taking a thing that gives off a minuscule amount and saying, well, that's the same as what was given off by Fukushima that blew up. it's like a glass of water is okay, but if they make you drink a bathtub full of safe water, there's a problem. You can die from drinking too much water. Sleeping next to someone exposes you to K40. Good Lord, that's just ridiculous. Flying on an airplane, I can understand that. Some guy actually sent me pictures of the readings of him flying on an airplane and how much he was exposed to. Well, look at this chart and pump yourself up on the good stuff so that the radiation can't get to you. Smoke detectors, batteries, 2, exit signs, salt substitute. A tiny, tiny, tiny amount. So as you test yourself, we're going to show you how to see what the amount is that makes the difference. So we're going to be working today with the Nano. You saw how that worked already, and we'll do a demo with that. Then Audacity, which you can download from sourceforge.net. And then would you put that address in for people? We'll be working with Abacus, which tells you what frequencies you need to be looking at, and then the radiation rescue software that, and both of those we are providing to you, the Abacus and the radiation rescue. And while we're thinking about this, if there is somebody here with us who thinks they have been exposed, please raise your hand and we'll use you as the guinea pig, especially anybody on the West Coast. So as we begin to look at the frequencies of the voice, we're going to take a 30-second vocal print and then ask the Abacus to look at it in terms of 0 to 1,000 cycles per second. 0 to about 64, that's what's coming. And then from about 80-something, well, actually, we do have it up to 128 now. So from about 100 to 500 or so, we're looking at what's happening now. And the blue is long-term. So keep that in mind when we're doing this. And we look at these prints and then we begin to enlarge them so that we can see one little piece and what it really means. And this is a lady who had leukemia, and what was really wrong with her is that her iron molecule would not hold the iron. So it was the iron molecule, not really the iron, that was the problem. So we're able to pinpoint things like that. We also look at the architecture of what's inside the voice. And this is just a couple of things that have been inside someone's voice. So you're looking at along here, looks good. All of a sudden there's a dip here, and that was Colleen. This was a person who had detached their retina in an airport somehow, and needed to really complete this trip, and we were able to look at it and give them sound. They had their tone box with them, and were able to continue the trip. But you're able to look at the architecture. Sometimes the architecture spins and twists. And this was somebody who had flukes. These looked like little worms inside the architecture. And it was a different genetic makeup than they had. And you see the spiral here. So we look at the frequency, we look at where it's placed, and we look at the architecture of the frequency to make all of this happen. And we call this bioacoustic biology. And it's been around a long, long time. Pythagoras' ideas of scales and how you could divide a string into many different sizes and get different notes out of the same string. And we still use Pythagorean harmonics today, and we use those relationships inside the formulas that we use to help people. Edgar Casey, Sleeping Prophet, died in the late 40s. He also says music will be the medicine of the future. Somebody just sent me another article. I need to remind myself to go dig that out. Music. It was AT&T. They sent it to me. that music, the AT&T just put out a paper. Anita, that was you that sent that. Can you give people a reference to it? About AT&T proclaiming that music was the new medicine? Even if you want to say something about it, I'll open your mic. I've given you a mic there, Anita, if you want to say something about it. Or not. Okay. So this has come down through a lot of people. Doreen Davis has written several books about it. Jonathan Goldman has buku CDs. There is so many people in so many areas. Even Pfizer Pharmaceuticals took one of our projects and did an additional research project on it. They are following in our footsteps. That's good. This is some of the things that we've been able to do. This is Russ Rudy, who is a doctor, a local doctor in the emergency room. He came to us with a diagnosis of MS. It wasn't MS. It was actually a damage to his spine. And it took about 5 months, but he was able to regrow his nerves from his waist down. He's still on a cane at this point, but there is the lab test that shows that there was recruitment of nerve volume. Totally impossible. But we did it. Here's another one. Romola lost her hearing when they took out a piece of her brain that had damage. 18 years later, she came to us, and we were able to help her regain her hearing. So what they're saying is impossible really isn't. It can be done. Just a little bit of what we do. This is the reversal of macular degeneration. So we've already proven we can do all of these things. But people still come to us and say, well, prove what you can do. Prove that you can look at radiation exposure. I can't prove it, because we don't have a big center where we could expose people to radiation. I wouldn't anyway. I don't even know if I would expose gnats or rats or flies to radiation and hurting somebody. But we do have information that we can see in someone's vocal print, and many of those that you just saw, there has been radiation exposure in their past as part of the problem. And our computer programs can see that root cause. And that's what we want to get to here and combine it with Dr. John Astley's information that says, even with Chernobyl, the real problem didn't start till 20 years later. So in looking at this hip deterioration, it really was an exposure to radiation that the computers decided that was the cause. And just by the numbers in your voice, we're able to look at these very deep free radical damage that's happening in the body, and it's not happening right now. And that's one of the things that Dr. Astley says, because it doesn't happen immediately, because when you drink a Pepsi, you don't puke immediately, you don't associate all the sugar and the damage that's happening, especially the diet stuff. It happens months, years later. People who have a lot of muscle cramps and they can't figure out why. Well, a lot of the times it's the fake sugar, the aspartame, in the Diet Cola. And they don't want you to associate that aspartame with the problem with your muscles. They want to give you medication for the problems with your muscles and not even treat the root cause. And the best thing we can do with this is look at the root cause. And one of the things about the root cause is very, very many times it goes back to some kind of free radical damage. And that is what these radioactive isotopes do. They create damage by going into the body. They're a toxic heavy metal they take up the receptor site for oxygen or whatever's supposed to be there, and then the oxygen can't get to your system because that heavy metal will not give up its site. One of the best things that we have found that will counter this is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and you can buy it right over the counter at your health food store. It will kick that heavy metal out of the receptor site, but it will tax your kidneys in flushing all of that out. So at the same time you're doing that, you need to be flushing out with some good cranberry juice or whatever kind of wonderful flush happens. This is becoming more and more accepted. We just keep beating people with the evidence. And the one that Anita sent out the other day, I think was this year, and showing that bioacoustics is the medicine of the future. And we've been here for 30 years, and people are just following along. A lot of them, they don't even bother to change the names of the papers. They just change the name of the author, which I thought was kind of cute. So I'm not getting credit, but at least everybody else is getting the information, which I think is incredible. You can read much more about what is going on in some of the articles. Just go to our Center of Sound Health Options.com. Look at the radiation rescue articles there. I don't have time to go over there. So we're an hour in, and I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm in a hurry. So as I said, we're going to start with these particular programs. We believe, but I don't even know if I should say this. We believe the government is deliberately ignoring this because they don't care if you get sick. It's this thing of we want more people to die and get off the planet, and if they don't hurry up, we're going to take their insulin away from them. We also believe that there are extreme dangers from what went on with Chernobyl and what we learned from that. And Chernobyl only had one rod go. Fukushima had 7. Was it planned? I don't know, but I think they're taking advantage of it and at the same time ignoring it. Now, even if I'm being an alarmist here, what's the harm in being prepared? There is an article that you can download, and it's from Dr. John Ashley. Go to his site, read his book, read some of the statistics in this article. It is incredible. I didn't believe him. I didn't believe that it was that bad. And I took apart his speech, sentence by sentence. This man is telling the truth. And it shows how infant deaths went up 900%. In Massachusetts, not even in Japan, in Massachusetts, this is damaging all of us. Radiation plumes hit southern and central California. And they are telling us it's okay because we have upped the safe levels. If water's okay up to your neck and that's a safe level, they're trying to say, well, water over your head's a safe level too. Just ignore the fact that you can't breathe. It is just incredible what is happening that you're not being told about. Here are some of the sites of how the jet stream is carrying this radiation. Look at western U.S. Look at how Hawaii is being bombarded. We offered 10,000 copies of this software to our practitioners in Japan. And they said, oh, the government said there's no problem. And they believed them. For the, Judy, the answer to that, for the most part, yes. we have created something called mathways. 1 and 1 is 2. Math is the universal language of the universe. All cultures understand the concept of counting. Babies understand counting. Even toddlers understand how many. I'm going to have to take a short break here. I will be right back. I'm very sorry about that, but something was burning. And somebody was burning popcorn and they walked off and left it. Phew. Okay, I'm back. Where was I? Okay, back to this individual math matrix that about 1 and 1 is 2. And we can look at your voice and we can look at all the harmonics that Pythagoras had talked about and taught us. And if your math, your frequencies from your voice don't match those harmonics, and 1 and 1 is 7, we know that you have an immune system issue. We have broken the codes of that math, and we call them mathways. Just as there are pathways of chemicals, there are mathways, and we can see so much more in these math matrices than conventional medicine has ever been able to look at, because it's all there in the numbers. This is one of the things Dr. Apsley said about our work. I wanted to put it in here because I am very awed by it. Sherry Edwards' work defines and demonstrates a unifying field theory that defied Einstein, and he is the first person to recognize that some of the formulations we use are modifications of Einstein's theory of relativity. We did not tell anybody that, yet he was able to find it and to look at it. I think this is going to happen, that you're going to call up your doctor and the doctor's going to say, well, the frequencies of your voice indicate what it does, so turn your machine to this frequency and call me in the morning. Or put this on and it'll put your heart back into rhythm. This is the new medicine. And it needs to be in the hands of the people. Not in the hands of the government. It's going to increase at 40 prices. We know the frequency that gets rid of heel spurs. Somebody took our class. They're using that frequency now that we provide in class. And they're putting these little boots on people and putting them in a tank of water and sending this frequency toward them. And it requires 3 different doses of this, and they're charging $3,500 a pop. I'm just speechless when I hear things like that. But it's happening. I'd like to get this all online, so that if every day you think there's something you need, what nutrient do you need? Was there a chemtrail? What have you been exposed to? Wouldn't you love it that we could have it every day if we want it? Now, why didn't we need it in olden times? Well, I think we did, but I think we've messed up our environment with electricity, with bad thoughts, with car exhaust, with bad medicine that doesn't work together, people who don't work together, and we still try to make it work and stay with that person. we have totally mucked up our environment. So we don't feel, a lot of us don't feel from the inside out what is really good for us, what really needs to happen. You try to cope. You want somebody to be there so badly that you'll take something you know is not right. You don't want to insult somebody, so you'll eat food that it just makes you gag. Or you'll take medication based on what the doctor said, even though your body kind of pushes you away from it and you don't want it. I think without options, without hope, people are not going to change and shift their loyalty from the government and the doctors and the, now I don't want to include the doctors. There's so many wonderful doctors that work with us. But from the HMOs and the insurance companies and the people who are telling you things for their benefit, not yours. Health needs to be about you, not about the amount of minutes that was spent, not about the amount of time or money somebody's going to collect for doing something, or a kickback from getting something else done. It needs to be about what's best for you. And that's the idea that we want to move forward with, because we understand that your brain is hardwired for math. Discovery Channel has a very nice film about this, Miss Brian Butterworth's book about as history. We are hardwired to understand the math, the frequencies, the frequency relationships inside our body. And the codes are in our language. And it's all controlled from the recurrent laryngeal nerve. That holds the vocal cord. That's inside the parasympathetic nerve system. And by our words and our two-way system, our words, you hear them, you say them, you hear them, you're programmed. And the government would like us to think, the big pharma would like us to think that resistance is futile. It is not. This guardian network that we have put together to meet with people every month and give them software, which I'll talk about at the end, that's the tool to show you that we have a way to combat what these people and these companies are trying to do, and that's make us sick and wring every bit of money out of us they can. There's an option. And I can't give it to you any less expensively than free for this program right here for radiation. I think radiation is probably third. I would say GMO foods are probably first. Well, maybe vaccinations are first. I can even tell what's first in messing up your environment, your internal environment, your self-environment, and your environment out here that you live in, your house, in your yard, in your community. We have found a way to tap in. String theory, modern string theory, tells us that we are made of infinitesimal little strings. But they don't know what makes those strings make an eyeball or a kneecap. We do. We have tapped into the magnetic potential, what we call the magnetic coherence of what makes those strings behave. And we don't want to fight anymore about getting pure food, pure air, pure water. That's our right to have the best fresh air, the best clear, pure water. People are still getting sick. And there are enough people to go around. Enough sick people to go around. We advertise for some well people because we want to do a project. We found one lady that volunteered. One of them came in, a guy, and he's filling out his papers. He's like, he just got over a three-way bypass. And I said, what makes you think you're healthy if you just had this done? He said, the doctor says I'm healthy and fine to go. Very few people on the planet are really healthy because they don't even know where to start with questioning what might be wrong 2-3 years down the road. That's the pleasure of this software. It allows you to see that. Okay, let's do some work. Do we have a volunteer yet? No, we don't. Well, maybe I'll just have to volunteer myself. The program that we're going to, Diane B. All right, we're going to volunteer you for invoice. Thank you, thank you. I'm going to open your mic. This is the nano voice, the invoice really, that works the same way. Diane, do you think you've been exposed to any radioactive fallout?
Well, I've traveled on airplanes quite extensively since 1992 because of my job required me to travel a lot. So, and just living in the, South Texas where the radiation from Fukushima is probably floating around.
Okay. Well, we're watching Zero here, and you're going to be talking. I'm going to click on the microphone, and you're going to start talking. It'll stop at 500. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Go.
My name is Diane Baines. I live outside of San Antonio, Texas, with my wonderful husband, 2 dogs, and a cat, in a small community just east of San Antonio. I had a wonderful adventure today to an olive orchard south of San Antonio where we got to tour an orchard where she practices all organic growing, and they did a cooking demonstration, and I can't tell you how wonderful it was. Fun to be with the friends and eat good food and know that it was GMO-free and healthy living. Do you need me to keep talking? Can you hear me, Sherry?
Well, I was hoping you would quit talking, and I didn't want to talk because I didn't want to be on your evaluation. But we need to go to 500, but this is okay. Your voice is a little scattered. There's some excitement in your voice. It feels like it was something kind of unusual in a different place, almost as if you were in a different time in history when you went to visit this. It was a nice fantasy thing for you. And you have D in fantasy, and we're just talking about visiting an olive orchard, so there was not a whole bunch going on. But it was outside of your usual stuff because you've got some stuff scattered here. This stuff is very topic specific. But this is almost like a little Disneyland thing you went to. Did you kind of feel that way about it?
It was fabulous. It was better than Disney.
All right. Okay, we're going to just say Diane B. online and about the olive orchard. And I'll just run over Diane B. I'm going to save it so we can come back and look at it if we want to. And then we just hit this, and we've got a whole printout for Diane. And we'll get to that printout in a few minutes. First, we're going to look at her columns. Now, there's a column of A-sharp. Do you guys remember which ones were A-sharp in the radiation chart? I'm going to bring on a simple one that doesn't have as much in it. So we have A-sharp there. That's very high. If we were testing her, A-sharp is in here 3-4 times. So we don't know whether this is cobalt-60, thorium, uranium, or plutonium. Now, this is not saying she absolutely has these things. I'm going to go back up and get the other chart so we can look at the muscles of where they go to. This is not filling in very strongly. And I don't think you guys can see that blue either very well. No, that's not where I want to go. I want to go way up here. I like that orange chart because it gives us muscle placement at the same time. So this is aggravating me that I can't find what I want immediately. So Diane had sounds showing up when she wasn't talking. What do you mean by that, Anita? I don't understand. The count was increasing with silence. I'll have to go check that. Might be something in this room that's running. Hope not. So Anita noticed that there were things going on even though you weren't talking. So we have to take what we did with a grain of salt and only use it as a demonstration. So we had all of this A sharp going on very high in the charts. If you'd just been exposed to radiation, somehow we would go, look, does your neck muscles hurt? Neck, well, this one's neck and shoulders too. This one's thyroid related, and this one's epinephrine. So in order to antidote her for this, she would need some NADH, she would need some fatty acids, she would need some B12 and B12 and cofactors, just to make sure. Now that is the antidote nutritionally. I think you have to buy NADH. Fatty acids, that could be fish, avocado, B12 meat, or you can look online and see where you can get B12. How this will interfere, B12 cofactors, her bioflavonoids might have problems sleeping. These are competitors. Threonine might be a problem with the bowel or the gut. Calcium or maybe B5, can't sleep, nervous. And the last one here is some trouble breathing. So we could maybe narrow that down a little bit by looking at maybe some of her symptoms. But a better way in this case is just to look at all of it, and none of it's going to hurt her if she takes it as a nutrient. So that's the long way, that's the hard way around to do anything with this. Diane, are you up for looking at specifically which one it was?
Sure.
Okay, we've saved this, and this is really a personality profiler. So we'll take a minute here to go look at, I like the bottom first here. You don't mind working to make your environment a place of enjoyment and peace? Working physically towards spiritual balance needs to be part of your life. You actively seek equal rights in words and deeds, money when you have it. You do for others just because they ask, not because they deserve. Any of that you?
Yes.
I will give you my email address. I can't get rid of that. It keeps running down shared. I'll give you my email address before we quit. You can send me yours, so I can send this right off to you. Unless you're somebody I already know, and then I need to. I heard you say your full name, but I don't remember it.
I'm Diane Baines. We spoke on the phone.
B-A-I-N-S or B-A-N-K-S?
B-A-I-N-E-S.
Okay. I'm going to put my email in here, so right after this, if we've spoken on the phone, I probably don't have your email address. Which is cherryedwards@gmail, if I can spell, .com. So we're going to keep this, just minimize it, And now we're going to open the Audacity that we talked about before. And this is a switch from time domain where we're kind of guessing about notes. So you can certainly get close. You can certainly see that her voice was out of balance. She had a very, very high A sharp. And A sharp represents the immune system. So in this case, we're going to call it 30 seconds. And you're going to watch the time up here. So just talk about riding on the airplane. And we'll go from there. Ready?
Yes.
Go.
As I said, my name is Diane Baines. I've spent about the past 20 years working for the pharmaceutical industry, monitoring and managing clinical trials. As a result, I had to travel all over the country to review data for these trials. I'm very conflicted about working for these people because of the things that Sherry's talking about and trying to overcome with regard to disease states. They are not looking for cures because cures don't make profit. So they're going to make us as sick as they can and make a bunch of money off of us until they can't make any more off of us and we're dead.
I didn't want to stop. I wanted to hear what else you were saying. That's great. I'm going to cut off this little bit here in front just to show people how to do it. You just roll over it with your left mouse and just hit the scissors and just cut pieces out. The cat meowing or door slamming. So yours may say export as WAV depending on which one of these you download. But we're just going to put Diane, whoops, I hit the wrong thing. Diane B on line. And I'm going to put that in my WAV file. I'm hoping I'm not going to lose this. Export. Oh, it's probably because I named it the other, same as the other one. I'll stick it in waves now. I'm going to save that, not kill it. The next thing we open is Abacus. I've seen this done in 7 minutes from beginning to end. We ran a little contest. So we're going to open the waves file. And this takes voice data and changes it into numeric data. And this is a little trauma spike here. Beginning of this looks good. There's some inflammation. Long term looks kind of high, like maybe she's not using her resources. So Diane B online, and I'm going to fake her birthday. This tells the computer I don't have her birthday, and we're looking at radiation. And we can click this little round circle here, pull the points, and it automatically pulls them for you and tells you what it thinks is important. Now, I don't agree with it here. I don't agree that we need this one, so I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to go up here and roll over this with my left mouse and say I want that one. So we can go in and pick the ones we want, and that's a high, and we're ready to go. I usually take a picture of this because I want to see what turns up to be that highest high. You can look at this dark gray grid, that's average for her voice, and then -1, -2, -3. She has a few lows, not anything to be concerned about. But this +1, +2, and +3, this 3 right here is a problem. So I'm going to save these numbers, 42, 53, 120, by hitting this little Rubik's Cube down here, because that's what represents health to us when everything is the same on all sides. The math is good. I'm going to put it in a GNS file. There is a happy hour that we just did It goes through this 4 or 5 times if you want more and more practice with it. So we're going to now open the radiation folder, and this is for the public radiation. And we've got that list of numbers. It's all downhill from this. So we're going to open it and just double click. And the first thing we want to do is just look at her radioactive isotope. Were any of those specific frequencies in that range of A sharp, were any of them spot on? Our plus and minus is 0.03. So it would be 1597, 98, 99, 16, 16, 1, 2, and 3. All of those would be kind of the same to us because that's kind of our hunt and munch number that we will accept. And if somebody is sending me a file and I'm not sure their computer, I might change that variance a little more if I didn't really trust their computer. So you can change that. I just lost that whole thing. Okay. So we've changed this, looked at it from radioactive isotopes, toxins, vitamins, and so forth. We only want the radioactive isotopes here. Report. Nothing came up. So none of those are spot on as a radioactive isotope. So we could say you're clear. But let's look at what else it might bring in. Oh, I unchecked them all. Didn't bring in anything. So this is called a node correlate chart, and anything 4 or more, it tells us where the stress is. The stress here is at D, digestion, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, and at F sharp, screening and filtering. So anything that comes up with that description, that's what we ought to pay attention to. Glutathione looks like the activators, the enzymes to make glutathione work, which helps the body rid itself of free radicals, whether they're from an airplane or an X-ray or a microwave. It looks like yours aren't working very well. When something here is high, and if you're not taking it, and it would be hard for somebody to take these because they're odd enzymes. There's something called reduced glutathione that may have it in it, or I don't know if you can purchase this or not. But you'll get a set of instructions, and altogether it's called a pastel folder. And it says, read me first, and how to interpret your chart, your nearest practitioner is. But it'll tell you that if this many things are high, this many times, it's probably because it's not working well. These things are not working like they should. Now this one says S-transferase omega-2, actually low. So high and low together, there's actually an imbalance in the enzymes that make glutathione work. Glutathione is one of the things that they alter in GMO foods. They alter taurine and glutathione. And glutathione is a major component of cell signaling in the body. How the body begins to talk to itself. It helps control minerals. We can bundle this and send it right on to Diane. Here we have amino acids. Glutathione is high. Are you taking glutathione?
I'm not taking glutathione, but I am taking a supplement that is a redox signaling molecule that might be helping with glutathione.
Could be that it is helping, but what it says here is that it's too high. Either you're taking too much of it or you aren't. Is it useful?
Okay.
So the score is too high. If we were really working with frequencies, we would go back to your chart, the abacus chart, and see where this is. It picked it out as one of these highs. And if you're taking it, You know, if it's down here, it's probably not a biggie because it's almost in the gray. But if it's one of these up here, then we got a problem. And one of the things we do with this when you take the next step, this is a public course, so we can't give you frequencies because you don't know what to do with them once we tell you. But I'll look this up before I send it over to you, away from the public eye, and we'll see where that glutathione actually is in the chart. If it is this +3, then I would think about discussing that with my wellness provider and maybe reducing the amount or looking at what would make the glutathione work. So let's look at that, because in your pastel folder, there's something called a nutrient assimilation chart. And we can look at glutathione. I think that's made from glutamic acid and glutamine. And it appeared over here on the other screen. So we can look at the amino acids and look at glutathione, formed from cysteine, glutamic acid, and glycine. To raise glutathione, use one or all of these. So you've got too much going on. I don't know what takes glutathione down, but I would try to find it on the internet. One of the things that we have arranged for our people, let me find it, is for you to have a trial of, this was an old one, I think, to have a trial of hyperhealth if you don't know those kinds of things. And I don't know what would make glutathione mind. So if you click this, you can get a free trial of hyperhealth. We've got time. Let's go ahead and look at that. If I open hyperhealth, we could look this up. I don't know how much of this you guys can see or whether it's going to show. Do you see it loading?
Yes.
Okay. I thought maybe it was doing it behind the scenes. So we can put in index and glutathione. Substance enhanced by, counteract, herbs that counteract, dietary sources, interferes with, contraindications, dosages. Well, it doesn't look like there's anything in here, after I bragged all over it, that tells you how to make it more useful. Metabolic pathway, oh, that's good to look at. We can see which one of these are in stress. Substance enhanced function. There's none of them that say something that makes it work better unless I'm just not seeing it here. I don't see it. There's some of it. Acetylcarnitine may help protect neurons from excessive glutamic acid. So there is some information there. We'll look for these, taurine, threonine. So hyperhealth really saves a lot of time. for me anyway. So I would look to see what other things are going on in your chart that's not allowing your body to use glutathione, or I would ask my wellness provider about backing off from it and see how they feel about that. I don't have the slightest idea what this is. Gamma-deric acid.
Sherry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Anita. Glutathione is the same frequency as the longissimus thoracic, I think. The back muscle.
Say it slower, Anita. Your words are running together.
Glutathione is the same frequency as a back muscle. And
okay.
Also, mycin. Diane's saying on the chat that she has a herniated disc and chronic low back pain. So it could be representing something else.
So you think it's the back pain rather than, or the back herniated disc rather than the glutathione?
Yep.
I would try that first. We could run her through the muscle program, or we could run her through mapping to try to look to see which one it really is.
Yep.
That's great. That's not my phone. Citric acid is high. That can't be, because that's water soluble usually. So I would say it's not usable. Gallic acid, I would say most of these are just not usable. If we had you in the clinic, we would just give you the antidotes by sound, or the balancers by sound, but I don't know what they are by nutrients. This is cause for concern, Anita, because all those enzymes are high and the activators are high.
Yes.
So we'd really want to look at her print, put in all of these glutathione enzymes, and see if we could find the pathway for it. So right here we're just giving management reports. We're not really looking at the pathway, but we could.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything as a reciprocal, but I'm only looking at the gen pro.
Okay, but remember, this is a public forum, too.
Yep.
And so they don't know all those secret number things.
Yep.
Biflavonoids are high. Most of her stuff is high. We really need to go look at mapping for her and see where that kink is. Here we go again with more, even in a genetic state, the glutathione. So that's been activated. Nuclear factor kappa B, that says high alert for an immune system. So we might want to run her through immune rise. Every time you look at somebody's voice, it'll probably lead you some other places. Are you taking any herbs? Because there's several listed here.
Not right now.
Okay, we have to consider that bioacoustically speaking, almost all the time, something is something else. So if you have a problem with peanuts, then you're probably going to have a problem with your thumb muscle. Because the peanut allergen is very similar to the thumb muscle. So we never know which it is or what causes what. Did the thumb muscle problem cause the peanut allergy? So if you're not taking any of these herbs, I would skip that or just look at it as what other frequency it is. DHEA, they tell you that that's the master hormone, poppycock. Not true. They just can show you this one and have a patent on it and sell it to you for really high money. When we look at the real master hormone, it's pregnenolone. And the guy who separated it out, what do you call it? Can't remember the word. He worked with that vitamin C guy, Linus Pauling, segregated it. He decided to put it on the market with no patents because he said that it was too important to let a drug company have it. I have heard bioperin help some supplements become more available. Wayne, I would like to know more about that. Lipid beta-ecdiesterone. I don't know what that is either, and we'd have to look it up. It's a fat. Minerals. Now, with all that glutathione, strange, germanium high, probably not likely. Iodine low, magnesium high, twice, different kinds, and molybdenum high. Molybdenum helps the body use calcium. It helps the body translate sulfites to sulfates, which would be another reason I would go to mapping for Diane. Proteins. Look at how many times glutathione has shown up as an enzyme, as a genome, as a protein, and an activator. I would really go down that path with her. If it shows up in one thing, a protein, okay, or just a genome, okay, but it's showing up in all four categories. And those are different frequencies. An activator frequency for glutathione is not the same as a protein frequency for glutathione. So I would look at that seriously. One of the most important programs that we have is mapping. And it's methylation mapping. And methylation is about the body preparing its incoming resources for the use by the body and to make it bioavailable. Now, we already have Diane's set of frequencies, so all we have to do is dump them in here and begin to look at what's happening. Let me look at GNS files. GNS, come on. Now, we can find a clean methylation map. To begin to look at what her real issue is. I don't think it's radiation, but she's got something going on with the glutathione, and I'm going to put in, I'll just go to the website so you can see where I'm getting this. It's heartfixer.com. And it's about 50 pages long, and they go in and test all of these genes and make sure that there's no problem. Now, she had genomes, so we're going to look at, she had molybdenum here. She had cysteine, not cysteine. She certainly had the glutathione as an issue. So we're going to go look at this map, but you can see more about it. For instance, if we wanted to look at SUOX or MTRR, you can go down through here, look at these, and see exactly what they are in terms of genetics and how they manifest. So we'll come back to this as we work. So I'm going to decrease the radiation one and put it over here. And as these pop up, we're going to mark them on the map. I'm hoping they're not going to take up everything, but they probably will. And then we'll make them smaller. So here's the reports coming out about mapping. I'm just making them smaller so we can look at them. And there's the glutathione high. Can you see that? So I'll take one of my little circles. Let me put these over here. Get them out of my way. So I'll take one of my little circles and put it around that glutathione. We're going to look at all 5 of these areas. One is how the body detoxifies. 2, how the body uses its energy. 3, how it repletes itself with its DNA. And 4 and 5, how it uses its resources. So we already know that glutathione here is too high. This protects the cells from toxins like free radicals. She has almost everything high about glutathione and both of its enzymes and one of its genomes. So it's likely that this is not working well in her body. And we may just go back and show you how you would look that up. Okay, DUMT. And THF. Oops, didn't mean to go down there. So we know there's some problem with the vitamin B's and folic acid here and replenishing the cells. And you can read each one of these and look at them, see what they mean. Molybdenum. They just stick it in here as Molly, probably because they didn't have room. But molybdenum and copper works together to make calcium work as a mineral. Now, calcium has a lot of other processes it needs to do, and it needs magnesium and manganese and lysine and vitamin D and all those other stuff. But just in this instance, it's copper and the molybdenum allows the calcium to work. And DHPR. Well, I don't know where DHPR is. There it is. Now, anytime there is something blue, it's genetic. And this is kind of how the body progresses. So we're going to go back to DHPR because that's the very first thing on this chart in the progression. That's probably causing the rest of this to go haywire. DHPR. So we can go up here to find. DHPR. Search. Oh, that's getting me nowhere. Does any of the rest of you see DHPR in front of me and I just can't see it? I can see it here. I can't see it in the index. And it won't search DHPR. It won't search for it. Maybe even got it in there right. Well, since it's in there with VH4, see if we can search for that. Well, I'll do it down here because it's not going to do it there. Well, here is a little bit, but I don't know if you can see it. But this gives you the pathway for it, and then tells you exactly what it is. BH4 is tetrahydrobiopterin. Poison by mercury, lead, specifically aluminum. So the point I want to make is you can go find what this stuff does and do a little bit of research on your own. These are all meant to be management reports. Now, if you're already familiar with this stuff, it's great and wonderful and you don't have to look up anything. Or if your client just wants to take it to their wellness provider. In my case, since I don't have any medical background, I have to go look all this stuff up when I run into something new, and this one is new for me. So this is the way that we would talk about it to our client. We would say, here are your reports. Here's a methylation map that we did. The indicator is that BHPR is the initiation of this issue. Here is heartfixer.com. Go look this up or discuss it with your wellness provider that this may be a genetic issue and you may want to do a genetic test on it. What we do with sound is just test you on the number that we have correlated with that, give you its antidote, see whether we need to open it or close it, and based on your response by sound, we're able to do something with it. So these management reports, and this is a difficult one, mapping. I probably shouldn't have brought it up with this, because we're really supposed to be just doing a simple one of radiation. But she didn't have any radiation things to look at, so I jumped back a step in looking at this for her mapping. And you can see that she has a lot of issues here about the body replenishing itself and looking at her genetics. We might also want to look at inflammation. She had some of that. We might want to go back and look at rejuvenation, which is about aging. We might want to look at immune rise, which is an evaluation of all the genes that deal with the immune system. The clue here, though, was way back at the beginning when A-sharp came up so high. And A-sharp indicates that there's a hit on the immune system. So I probably took you into some difficult waters. I hope you can wade through it with me. And if you want to back up and tell me I got it over your head, go back and listen to Happy Hour. And it shows 4 different evaluations of people who actually had some kind of radiation in their charts. So my apologies for getting deeper than we should have here. Do we have any questions, because we're getting to the end of time? I hope all of you can join us tomorrow for Blog Talk Radio. And one of the things that we want to do for people is we want to help facilitate change, to get rid of the fear, and to help keep us all safe by sharing these very simple softwares. We encourage you to download your software and get it registered and start helping people, or even showing and teaching people. Bring this back up next weekend when we're playing this again. Have them watch it with you. Show them what we have the ability to do. We know that we can make change, but we also know that we need help in doing that. There's 2 types of marketing. One top-down, which you see the drug companies doing a lot of commercials on TV saying, go do this and tell your doctor that. And from bottom up, where you educate the people and let them make the choices based on their experience and their behavior and what's good for them. So based on your experience is why we've provided the Nano Voice for you. These free softwares are why we are providing an opportunity for you to look at a tool to help all of us pull together and provide a nurturing society for each other. Right now, I'm seeing that we're being hit on the basis of our physiological needs. Are we safe? Is the TSA going to arrest us? Is somebody going to come to our home without a search warrant or a self-addressed search warrant? Are we going to get killed on the street by some nutball that just can't help himself because he's on so much medications he's messed up and crazy? We're not able to get to our social needs, our esteem needs, and our self-actualization needs and grow if we're having to worry about our safety and physiological needs all the time. Bruce Lipton wrote a wonderful book, Biology of Belief, and one of the things that stuck with me about that book is he said, if a cell is fighting for its life, for its space, for its nutrients, if the cell is fighting, it can't help nurture and be a part of all the body. And that's so true for all of us, that as we are here and people are trying to divide us, there is no way that we can come together and be that nurturing society. And I'm hoping these 6 softwares will be able to pull that together so that we can all create a better system for all of us in this idea of self-help. Because I don't think we're going to get the help we need from the government or from the HMOs or insurance companies. And I think the people with the most money are going to get the best help based on their paradigm. For my paradigm, the people who have the most tools in a way that they can help themselves will be the people that everybody looks up to as a leader in the community, because trained with this, you'll be able to help support the basic needs of life. And that's why Rose covered the wish for the world. Wow, that went quick. Thank you for joining me. Are there any questions that I have not answered that somebody wants to bring to my attention? How do you go back and listen to Happy Hour? It is on our site. We posted it for people because we felt like it was a really good thing to do, but I don't know where it is. If somebody can go back and find it, Ashley is not on with us, but I will find out and post it to all of you. The chart was covered up by my chat box. Okay, that's an answer from somebody else. Okay. Anita, have you scanned through here? Are there things I haven't answered? Anita has been with us for about 15 years, so you can take to heart what she's posting here. I'm going to keep this chat because there's a lot of good information here. Well, if there's no questions, we're going to sign off. Now remember that this will be replayed next weekend from Friday at 5 to Monday noon. So if you think it's worthwhile and you want your friends to have this software and the textbook and everything else that we're providing, by all means invite them to join us. Because there are options, and the software that we're providing is enough for you to set up a community response center to help reverse the damage. And we are looking for teachers and trainers in our communities. So please get in touch with me if you are interested. We have created another beginning course so that people can come in a little easier. And the Guardian program is the easy, the free program is easy. But the Guardian program, we meet once a month, and we share a new software and the same kind of class with you. And we have given away probably 30 or 40 softwares, and people who join in the month of April are going to be given the nutritional consultant for free. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.